Okay, making a video here to show you some more examples of multi-step inequalities and compound inequalities. So we don't have any absolute value bars here. Okay, so we are not worried about isolating the absolute value bar. So with these inequalities, if we have parentheses, the very first thing we need to do is get rid of our parentheses. Okay, so we're going to have to distribute the -5 since it's outside the parentheses. So -5 times -1 gives me a +5. -5 times -8k gives me positive 40k. And then I have a greater than 85. All right, so our goal here is we are trying to get our variable by itself. We're trying to get the k by itself. So we're going to subtract 5 from the left and the right. So we're left with 40k now on the left-hand side. The sign doesn't flip. It only flips if I divide or multiply by a negative. I just subtracted there, so it doesn't flip. 85 minus 5 gives me 80. And the last step here to solve for k is we're going to divide by 40 since it's attached. And so we have k, again, we divided by a positive 40, so the sign doesn't flip. It only flips if we divide by a negative. 80 divided by 40 gives us 2. So we have k is greater than 2. So 2 is the number we're going to circle. It's not equal to 2. If it were equal to 2, we would shade in our 2. It's not equal to 2, so we leave it open. But since k is greater than 2, we shade all the numbers that are greater than 2. So we shade all the way to the right. And if we go forever to the right, that's infinity. So if we were going to write our interval notation here, okay, what did we shade? We shaded from 2 all the way to infinity. So we would say 2, infinity. Now, since the 2's got an open circle, it gets a parenthesis. And what rhymes? Infinities always get parentheses. So that would be interval notation. If my 2 had an equal to, if it had an equal to sign and it was shaded in, then we would have a bracket here on our 2. All right, another example. Over here we've got -92 on the left, and we're going to distribute our -4 this time. Make sure you distribute the -4 to everything inside the parenthesis. -4 times 5k gives me -20k. -4 times -2, positive 8. All right, so we're trying to get the k by itself. So we're going to subtract 8, so we can get that k alone. -92 minus 8 more, -100. We subtracted, so we're not flipping our sign. And we have -20k on the right. Now, to get the k by itself, we're going to divide by -20. We're going to divide by -20 on both sides. When you divide by a negative, you better flip that sign. So instead of less than, it's going to flip to a greater than. Negative divided by a negative is positive. 100 divided by 20 gives me 5. All right. Now, this is not written the way I want it to be written. I want my variable to be on the left. So I'll put my k on the left. I'll put my 5 on the right. Well, the mouth is originally eating the 5, so it needs to continue to eat the 5. Now I'm ready to graph that. So I'll circle my number 5. There's no equal to on it, so we're not going to shade it. But we are going to shade. This says the shading, the k values shadings have to be less than 5, so we shade to the left of 5. And in this case, forever to the left is -infinity. So here, interval notation, we went from -infinity all the way to +5. Infinity always gets parentheses, and since our 5 was an open circle, it also gets parentheses. Okay. All right, so now moving on to our compound inequalities. This is where we have the and or the or. All right, so we're going to have to do each one separately here. 8p minus 2 is less than -34. We're going to work that one out. And then we have 5 plus 5p is greater than or equal to -10. We're going to have to work that one out, both of them individually. So we'll add 2 to both sides. So I've got 8p is less than -32. Then we divide by 8 to get p by itself. So I divided by a positive, so the sign stays the same. -32 divided by 8 gives me -4. Over here, we're going to solve this one for p, so we're going to subtract 5. So I've got 5p is greater than or equal to -10 minus 5 more, -15. Now we're going to divide by 5 to get p by itself. And so I get p is greater than or equal to, I don't flip my sign, I didn't divide by a negative, but -15 divided by 5 does give me -3. So the two numbers I'm circling here are -4 and negative 3. Since it says or, I should know what this is going to look like. They're going to shade outwards. Okay, this says my shading has to be less than negative 4, so we shade to the left of negative 4. That's to negative infinity. Now this one says greater than or equal to negative 3, so the negative 3 has to be shaded in since it's equal, and we shade greater than, so we shade to the right. There. So the interval notation here, we would say negative infinity to negative 4. Infinity gets parentheses. Negative 4 is an open circle. He also gets parentheses. But wait, there's more. Oh, I forgot to put my infinity there. This next shading goes from positive 3. Sorry, I lied. Negative 3. Negative 3 to infinity. Negative 3 is a closed circle, so he gets a bracket there. And infinity always gets parentheses. There's the or. We shade outwards. Now this one, this is our and problem. So on this one, we got to get the v by itself in the middle. So we'll subtract 5 on all sides. 11 minus 5 gives me 6. Negative 6v in the middle. 23 minus 5 is 18. And then we'll divide by negative 6. Flip those signs when we divide by negative. 6 divided by negative 6 is negative 1. The v is now in the middle. 18 divided by 6 gives me negative 3. But the problem is these are not written in the correct order. My negative 3 is the smaller number. He needs to go on the left. Negative 1 is the bigger number. He needs to go on the right. Now, between the v and the negative 1, it's eating the negative 1 originally. It needs to continue eating the negative 1 when you switch it. Here, between the negative 3 and the v, it's eating the v. It needs to continue to eat the v when you switch it. Okay, so here we will circle our two numbers, negative 3 and negative 1. And the only one that's filled in is the negative 1. It's got the equal to. And since this is the and, my v is in between the two numbers, I shade in between the two numbers. So on this interval notation, we shaded from negative 3 to 1. Negative 3 was an open circle. He gets parentheses. 1 is a closed circle. He gets a bracket. That is interval notation right there.